which we're going to be referring to today, hasn't quite been updated yet. We've been assured it will be updated by the end of today, but please do accept our apologies in the meantime. So we're going to be referring to the website a lot today, but hopefully by the time this presentation's finished, unfortunately it won't be. So we'll get started. In terms of the agenda for today's session, we're going to start with welcome and introductions. I'm really happy to have Cllr Bramble and Cllr Kennedy here to join us today. Thank you very much to both of you. Will give us a bit of background on the grants programme, talk about this year's programme and the grants available, go through some of the practicalities of the application process, and finish off with some key information on next steps. So just in terms of housekeeping, please do keep yourself on mute the whole time. A copy of the slides will be shared after the event. You'll be sent an email via Eventbrite. And we'll aim to answer questions at the end of the session. There is a little bit of time for that, but do feel free to put any questions in the chat box as we go along, and we'll try and address them as and when we can. So in terms of some key terms we're going to be using today, so VCS, Voluntary and Community Sector, we're going to be using organisation or group interchangeably. It basically means the organisation who's applying for funding. We also might talk about structured groups of residents. So this is a group of people who aren't a registered organisation for some community chest funding. We'll talk about fund or scheme, which is basically the different grant strands available. And we'll also talk about request for funding. So that's basically your project or application. So we're just going to start with a quick introduction to the team. So I'm going to ask each of the team to introduce themselves. So over to Claire first.
Oh, hello everyone. My name's Claire Whitney. I'm a strategic lead in policy and strategic delivery team and work alongside my colleagues in the community partnerships team.
Thanks, Claire. Moyo.
Hello, I'm Moyo Adeneye. I'm the strategic investment officer in the team. Thank you.
Thanks, Moyo. I'm Nisa. I'm the grants investment manager. Over to Sue.
Hi, my name's Sue. I'm a strategic delivery officer working within the grants team.
Thanks, Sue. And Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Shaw. I'm senior grants and investment officer in the grants team.
Thanks, Tom. So yeah, we're the grants team. So hopefully you don't know us already, you'll get to know us over the next few months with your application and hopefully your grant as well. So looking forward to working with all of you. So I'm now going to hand over to Cllr Kennedy.
Believe I've taken myself off mute, and Lisa, you've put that lovely slide up, the picture of myself and Deputy Mayor Bramble. As you can see, Deputy Mayor Bramble follows the guidance of always being immaculately turned out, so that when her picture gets taken, she gets a lovely picture like that, and I'm not quite so hot on that. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you all and launching the 23-24 programme for the project grants and the community chest grants and the community infrastructure grants. It's really wonderful to see so many of you on the call, especially people whose names and organisations I recognise as having done absolutely sterling work, not just last year, but in many of the preceding years. But particularly in the last 12 months, I know loads of you have been working really, really hard on the cost of living crisis. There's been some extraordinary work done just in my own little corner, Hackney ward. I'm aware of so many organisations that have delivered so well in terms of community meals and warm spaces, providing our organisations can start providing advice to our residents and stuff. It's absolutely wonderful. I know many of you have also been distributing the council's Here to Help guide. Do get in touch with us if you need more hard copies of these, although obviously, of course, in the first instance, we ask everyone to check it out online. I can give you a few numbers to fill in what happened last year. So last year, we gave out 84 grants in total that came to the tune of £1.2 million across these type of grants. Amazing broad range of organisations providing help and support to all our communities, and as you'll see from some of the figures there and the breakdown, led by people who look like the people we're supporting and aiming to support. And that's really important to us, that the leadership in our organisations looks like and reflects back on our communities. Also really important to us is that it's the smaller charities, the ones that have really sprung up locally, and those organisations that have grown from the grassroots that have supported people. So we're really pleased that 2/3 of the money that we with an annual income of below £250,000. So once again, thank you for that absolutely fantastic work. And my final piece of thanks before I hand over to Cllr Bramble obviously goes to Lisa and the team. So that's Claire, who's just introduced herself, and Moyo Adene, Sue Brown and Thomas Shaw. Thank you, everybody. And Cllr Bramble, over to you.
Thank you, Cllr Kennedy, for your words, and it's a real pleasure to be able to be here with you again, with Cllr Kennedy, of course. I'm really pleased that the pilot has gone so well. One of the reasons why I introduced encouraged officers to have a different framework around children's social care commissioning is that on our framework, we found that some of the same providers were providing for lot 1 and lot 2. So I had a suggestion that we do something different with lot 2, and can we make it more accessible? And officers do that great thing of what they do here in Hackney. They went away and decided to make that second lot a grant-based approach, which is in line with what we have in the work that Cllr Kennedy is leading on. What it means is that smaller organisations are able to access funds a lot sooner, a lot quicker, and we're able to look at different outcomes and impact for those providers providing for those grants. And Young Hackney created and provided that for us. Also, they've teamed up with Public Health to introduce a new Healthier Hackney grant, which I think is key at this time. And, since the pandemic, which Cllr Kennedy spoke about, you as the voluntary sector were instrumental in ensuring our response within our communities around the pandemic. And then, mental health and well-being and being active in terms of your physical health has been key coming out of the space of moving through the pandemic. So the fact that we're introducing that Healthier Hackney grant, I think, is key. By diverting some of the Young Hackney and public funds from our commissioning grants that I suggested, this will enable us to do more collaborative programs with the council and you as the voluntary sector, provide good value for money, because I feel like it's going straight to you, people who have that trusted relationship, and you're delivering straight into the community. And also, which is key and very important, you're adding extra value and extra provision within our communities. What you do is pivotal, because you, as I said, you have those trusted relationships within the community that us as a council sometimes have to work out. So your in-reach and response is quicker and deeper in the community sometimes, and that's why you are so invaluable to us. So thank you for all that you are doing. Thank you, Cllr Kennedy.
I'm just going to, Claire Whitney, I'm keeping my camera off because there's something wrong with my Wi-Fi. So hopefully my microphone will work and you'll be able to hear me. I just wanted to say a few things about the kind of high level, what's actually informing and helps us to decide what the grants programme is looking like. So I just wanted to say, before we get into the nitty gritty of it, what's going to be 23-24, I'm just going to say a little bit quickly about what's happening, what's informing this. And I think what's really important to say, firstly, is we are still learning, and that's really important to us. Our real learning started when we started talking to the sector, when we were putting together the Voluntary and Community Sector Strategy back in, which informed our strategy. that really started us on that journey of looking at the way we invested in the sector. And of course, the pandemic and the cost of living crisis has really demonstrated us to the value of all of that kind of what the sector was saying to us much earlier on, that we need to do more collaboration, we need to partner, we really need to work differently. And we've really progressed, I think, a lot around that, and we really have learned so much over the last couple of years. And I think what's happening is this will constantly change. Our learning is informing what we're doing all the time. And where we used to have a grants program that pretty much stayed the same, I think, for many, many years, despite, you know, a little bit of tweaking around the edges, what we're learning fast, and we're in very difficult circumstances. So it's likely that we'll continue to learn and the program will change. But we want to do that in a very collaborative way with yourselves, and that you're part of that conversation. Next slide, Lisa. So when we think about the council's grants programme, what's really important to us is it reflects what the council's trying to achieve as an organisation. And we have a new strategic plan, which you can see on our website. If you just type in strategic plan on our webpage, our council sets out, you know, what we're really focused on as a council and what we're trying to achieve. And there's more detail under these headings in the plan. And I think one of the things that's important, as well as these things, what's really important for us is that we're looking at the way we are working. So the plan talks about how we want to make Hackney fairer and safer, how we want to make it greener and healthier, and how important it is to focus on every child in Hackney. But it also talks a lot about how we do that and the way we work to deliver it. And I think that's what's really important in terms of what we're doing with the sector. It's not just about what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. And the working with the voluntary and community sector is absolutely central to that. And although the council's got a new strategic plan, our grant programme priorities, we've reworded them a little bit, but they've pretty much remained the same as being the things that we're aiming to do. And there's a very clear link between what our programme priorities are and what's in the council's strategic plan. Really important to understand. This is, you know, we have a vision as a council, we have a set of things we're really focused on achieving, and the grant programme is part of that. It doesn't sit separately, it's all part of what we're trying to achieve as a council. I'll hand over to, is it Moyo next? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Cllr. So as our follow-on from what Cllr has been saying, this table that is showing, the table gives an overview of the grants program open for application this year. This will be discussed further in detail shortly, but in terms of an overview, we will have a project grants program which has separate strands for children and young people's fund, as at last year, and new for this year, healthier Hackney grants. So healthier Hackney grants is new for this year. The funding amounts vary per strand, but generally gives off up to £20,000 are available. As with last year's program, organization will have to have an annual income of between £10,000 and £1 million in order to apply for this grant. There will be one round of funding from April 2023. Our community chairs programs will remain similar to previous years, and we will continue to have 4 rounds of funding. Organization must have an income less than £10,000 to apply for the community chairs program. This is so that we can focus on ensuring that the community chairs grants reach the grassroots groups who the funding is intending to support. There will also be a new healthier Hackney element of community chairs grants. Community infrastructure was a program launched last year. There are already 20 organizations funded through this program. So this year's fund will be limited, as we will only be able to fund around 5 more organizations. Grants will be up to £19,800. There will be a 2-stage application process consisting of an application form, which is open now. Slide 3, please, Lisa. These table outcomes, this table that is on the screen now outlines our closed schemes that are not currently open for applications. Specialist grants is a program to support key organizations within the borough. We are continuing to review this program and how it aligns with our wider approach to supporting the voluntary community sector. Social welfare advice grants are funding for advice services in the borough, which have been further stretched during the cost of living crisis. An application process for the next round of social welfare advice grants took place in autumn 2022, with grants being awarded from April 2023. This will be for 3 years. We will now talk about each of the open grant schemes in further detail. I hand over to Tom now, please.
Excellent, thanks, Moya. As mentioned earlier, our 2 programme priorities that underpin the whole grants programme have been updated to reflect the Council's strategic plan. For our project grants, we're also looking for grants that support the following 6 equality aims, which were developed last year as part of our Children and Young People's programme. These aims are identity and belonging, being healthy, making a positive contribution, achieving economic and financial well-being, enjoying and achieving, and being safe. The purpose of our project grants is to fund short-term activities that are working towards these grant programme priorities and equality aims. There are specific funds for children and young people and healthier Hackney grants, as mentioned earlier, but the application form and the process and the criteria are the same for all the strands. In terms of the essential criteria and conditions we look for these grants, organisations must have an annual income of between £10,000 and £1 million. Organisations can apply for up to £20,000 for projects, 1 or 2 years in length, and that will be depending on the fund applied to. 80% of the project's beneficiaries must be Hackney residents, and organisations may only apply for 1 grant in this strand. Some past examples of grants which we funded: for project grants, a cooking programme which supports young parents to budget and cook nutritional meals for their families, and a cultural events programme for older people to improve their skills and social connections. And from a Children and Young People's Fund, they had a free multi-sports programme for young people on 3 estates in Hackney, and a programme for people from young people from Black and global majority backgrounds, focusing on heritage, identity, belonging, and building a personal and collective voice. Excellent. I'll hand over to you now, Sue.
Hi, thanks, Tom. The Healthier Hackney grants are part of the wider project grants programme, but there are some specific focus areas and criteria, so the application form includes some additional questions. The overall aim of the programme is to develop and test activities that support the least active residents in Hackney, to build healthy physical activity habits and become more active. Building on what we have learnt from residents and local organisations, we are particularly looking to fund innovative approaches, collaboration, improving outcomes, sustainability, and place-based approaches. And in terms of the essential criteria and conditions, the application process will be the same as the project grants and the children and young person and community chest applications. There are specific additional questions, but conditions are essentially criteria. They remain the same. In addition to the generic physical activity, we are particularly looking to fund physical activity in independent Orthodox Jewish schools, family play, and small activation grants for community grassroots organisations via Community Chest. Grantees will be expected to participate in the Public Health Community Champions programme as part of the Healthy Living, the Healthier Hackney grants. And over to Lisa.
Thank you, Sue. So I'm just going to quickly talk through the Community Chest grants. So the purpose of these grants is to fund short-term or one-off activities, again, working towards the grants priorities mentioned. So for this, applicant organisations must have an annual income of £10,000 or less per year, or it could be an unregistered group or a structured group of residents coming together for a specific purpose. So this is really to support grassroots organisations. So projects are short-term, no longer than 1 year in length, and at least beneficiaries must be Hackney residents. Organisations may hold more than one Community Chest grant per financial year if their projects don't overlap, and the maximum grant amount is £1,000. So as mentioned, there'll also be an opportunity for small grassroots organisations to apply for Healthier Hackney funding via the Community Chest grant. And some past examples of Community Chest grants from this year have included seated exercise classes for older residents in a hyper-local area, and a sustainable fashion fair and swap shop to encourage environmentalism. So I'm going to pass over to Claire now, who's going to talk through the community infrastructure grants.
Thanks, Lisa. We introduced the community infrastructure grants last year, so we're just coming to the end of the first year of working with colleagues, partners who've been funded with these grants. They are very different to the project-based grants, and we'll only be funding 5 new organisations because this is longer term funding. We're currently funding 20 organisations over 3 years, so this is an extra 5 organisations who will, to align, have 2 years of funding. And it is a form of core funding, but it's very specific in terms of what we're looking to invest in terms of the organisations we're funding. And I think what's really different about it is we're looking as much about in as much as what they actually do, and the focus is really upon how the organisations work with and build relationships with individuals and within communities, and how that has a real impact on the lives of residents. And if anybody is interested in a community infrastructure grant, I'd really recommend attending the online session before applying, because it is very different to all the other grants in the programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. I will now go through our eligibility criteria, which are as follows. Organizations must be not-for-profit, value-driven, and principally reinvest their surpluses to further social, environmental, or cultural objectives. These are typically the following types of organizations: registered charity or charitable incorporated organizations, charitable companies, companies limited by guarantee, social enterprises, and community interest companies. These must have asset logs, be wholly not-for-profit and without share capital. Cooperative and community benefit society, unregistered community groups. Structured group of residents can apply for our Community Chest grants only. Private businesses and individuals are not eligible to apply for grant funding from the program. At least 80% of the people benefiting from the funding request must be Hackney residents. Applications must align with the program guidance for the scheme they are applying for, including start and end dates and annual income criteria. If applicants who have received a grant through the program in previous years have failed to fulfill the funding requirements of the previous grant, including return or required monitoring forms, they may not be eligible to apply for a grant. Thank you, Lisa. In addition to the general eligibility outlined previously, organizations will also need to provide a number of documents along with their applications, which will be used to conduct due diligence checks. This will vary slightly depending on the type of organization applying for community checks only. Generally, organization must be registered with articles and or constitution with clearly defined aims and objectives. Have an organization bank account. Where this is not possible for groups of residents, extra checks will be carried out before funding is released to an individual account. Annual accounts to show income and expenditure. In the case of smaller groups, a financial forecast strokes projection, appropriate insurance and safeguarding policies. Be able to demonstrate 80% of beneficiaries will be Hackney residents. So, please.
Thanks, Moyo. So the grants programme generally does not accept applications from any of the following. So any groups with political or exclusively religious activities, groups where overheads are allocated or apportioned at rates materially in excess of those used in similar work carried out by the organisation, not for capital or building costs, applications for costs paid or liabilities incurred before the start of the date of the grant. We can't fund the cost of work or activities that any other person or organisation has a statutory duty to undertake. And we can't fund activities undertaken outside of Hackney, although there may be some exceptions. For example, Hackney residents may be assessing specialist courses outside the borough or venues or trips. We can't fund previous debts, including contingent liabilities. That's possible charges relating to past events. We can't pay for the cover for something that may not occur, contingencies, although this does vary per scheme, so do have a close look at the guidance on that. We can't generally fund interest charges or other costs resulting from delaying payments due to creditors. We can't fund service charges arising on leases, hire purchase, or any other credit arrangements. We can't fund the depreciation of fixed assets paid for by this grant or any costs that are not outlined within the grant application. Okay, over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Sue. So the exact process differs slightly per grant for the application process, but a general overview of this is to plan. Firstly, guidance documents for each scheme will be published on the website. We strongly recommend you take time to read and understand all of the resources to help plan your application. In addition, we'll be running info sessions taking place over the coming weeks for each of the grant schemes. Next stage is to apply, and all applications will be made via our online application portal ahead of the deadline. We are unable to accept any late applications, but if you're experiencing any difficulties with the portal, please contact us in plenty of time so that we can help you. Next stage would be assessment. Once your application is submitted, the grants team will process this, ensuring that groups meet the eligibility criteria and that there's no errors on the application form, such as request amount, start dates, or anything else. We'll then conduct due diligence checks based on the policy documents submitted as part of the grant. Your application will be then passed on to a team of trained volunteers assessors, which will come from the council and from volunteers from the VCS. They will score your application and will meet at a grants panel to make decisions on which applications will be funded. We may also be in touch after this stage to ask additional clarifying questions about your application if anything is unclear. Please ensure you answer any clarifying questions at this stage as quickly as possible. We'll also, please note that throughout this, we will also always receive more applications than we can ever fund. So assessors will need to make difficult decisions based on the information provided in your application, as well as taking into account what else we are funding to ensure that we have a good geographical and equality spread for the whole of the grant schemes. Once the decisions are made, successful applicants will be notified. All unsuccessful applicants will be given the opportunity to get feedback from the grants team. Following this, we'll have agreement and payment where successful organisations will be contacted and grant agreements will be issued and signed electronically. The payment process will then commence and all organisations will be paid through our supplier management system. Next stage will be delivery, which is the main part of this. So you won't be asked to go into the delivery phase of your project. This will be delivered as outlined in your application and grant agreement. If you ever need to make any changes to your grant, please contact your grants officer to discuss this in advance. And lastly, we'll be asked to report. You'll be asked to submit a written end of grant report on your the system approximately 1 month after the end of the date of your project. Some larger grants may also be asked for midpoint calls and or site visits, as well as on the site as well. Your grants officers will provide feedback before closing off your grant. Any unspent funds will need to be returned to us and will go back into the grants pot for the next round of funding. Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Tom. So this is probably one of the most important slides you'll see today. So this table outlines the application periods and closing dates for the upcoming grants. So project grants are open from now until the 27th of March. Community chests will have rolling deadlines throughout the year. So the first deadline is the 27th of March, with further deadlines in July, October and January. And the community infrastructure, as mentioned, will have a two-stage process. So stage 1 applications are open from now until the 24th of April, and stage 2 interviews will take place in May 2023. So just to say, as I mentioned at the start, our website is currently being updated. So hopefully within the next 30 minutes or so, this will all be up available on the website, so you can start your applications from today. So over to Moyo to talk through next steps.
Thank you, Lisa. Over the coming weeks, we will be hosting further information sessions on the different grant schemes to go through the information in more detail, as well as possible some guidance on the application questions. A session for the Children and Young People Fund will take place tomorrow at 3 p.m. For project grants, it's Wednesday at 11 a.m. For Healthier Hackney grants, please come along to the section on Wednesday at 4 p.m. The community chest information section will be on Friday at 12 p.m. And finally, the community infrastructure information section will be on Monday, 28th February at 4 p.m. All of these sections will be held online. They will be recorded and the links will be available online following the event provided. Thank you. Tom, I hand over to Tom.
Thanks, Maya. This is a list of some of the key documents and resources available to support you with your applications further. Our website will contain all the up-to-date information and links that you need, including the links to the application forms. Our VCS prospectus will give you an overview of the whole grants programme, as well as information about general eligibility. There's a guidance document for each of our grants programme, which includes more information and guidance on specific application questions. We've also compiled a document with information on general support available for VCS organisations. We'll also have some resources on our website which you can use to help you with checking your policy documents for any due diligence purposes. And we've created some video resources to guide you through some of the more specific processes. For example, how to log into the application portal. Over to you, Sue.
Thanks, Tom. And additional support is available via our team and also through partner organisations. So do contact us if you have any general questions about the programme. Hackney CVS are available and they provide bespoke application support through their organisational development team. There's also the East London Business Alliance. They're also able to offer an application review service where trained business volunteers can look through your application to provide comment and feedback to you. Hackney CVS and Elba's application support services are free for VCS organisations to access. And we're also recruiting volunteers from the voluntary sector to participate in the assessment process. And further information on that will be coming out over the next few weeks. So please look out for that. Lisa.
Thank you very much, Sue. And you'll see I've just posted a few links in the chat based on what we've just been describing as well. So hopefully that's helpful. So this is the end of our formal presentation today. So just to reiterate again, after this session, we'll be in touch via Eventbrite, and we will send you a copy of these slides along with a short feedback form, which it would be great if you wouldn't mind completing that. And as mentioned, the recording of this session will be made available online via our website, and that will be the same for all of our sessions as well. We will record everything, be made available on the website for you to look back at any time you wish to do so. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop recording and we're going to have the opportunity to answer some of your questions. So bear with